We'll get this meeting going. We could have a roll call, please.
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Lynn Two Teeth,
Here.
Martin Charlo,
Present.
Ellie Bundy,
Present.
Anita Matt,
Present.
Carol Langford,
Here.
Bing Matt,
Here.
Jim Molitor,
Here.
Jennifer Finley,
Here.
Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
Jim Still Senior.
Thank you, Abby. I could have Jennifer Finley lead us in a prayer.
Today I ask that we call upon the strength in our hearts to do good work for our tribe, for our people. And I pray for the wellness of our tribe and that their physical wellness, their mental wellness, their spiritual wellness. And I pray that we all do our best work today for our families, for everyone in the tribe, for the people who can't be here, and for the people who aren't born yet. And that we remember the seriousness of our work and that people are depending on us and our goodness and our strengths. I ask that we be strong and that and I ask that our work be blessed and that we remember that the words that we say are sacred and I ask that we all work together with a good heart. Amen.
Jennifer. We have the minutes from January 13th, draft minutes, if everybody's had a chance to look at those or not. Any corrections to the minutes?
I'm not sure what page it is, but it's after the break in the morning. It says I left the meeting. Can you put I left for a funeral?
Thank you, Carol. Any other corrections?
Motion, Mr. Chair, with corrections for January 13th, 22 minutes.
Motion by Carol with corrections. Is there a second? Seconded by Anita. All those in favor? Unanimous. Second again, Superintendent Watkins. I don't see any, but we'll go to our agenda. I believe Martin said that there might be a cancellation right now, but I would suggest that we replace that with our discussion for boards and committees and get that out of the way this morning. Martin?
Yeah, we'll have until 9:30. Tabitha Espinoza and Miranda will be here, and then we'll have an hour at 10 o'clock. So if we don't get it all done in the half hour now, we can continue it then.
Sounds good. Is there any other agenda items? Martin?
I'll have an addition in open, please.
All right. Anything else? With Martin and his update, then we'll go into the boards. If we don't have enough time, we'll pick that back up after Michelle Mitchell comes in. So with that, I'll
Motion to approve the agenda for today with additions.
Motion by Carol to approve the agenda. Is there a second? Second by Jimmy. All those in favor? Unanimous? Okay, look at the board. Or shouldn't do that. Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure that, as per my usual thing, give a quick update on COVID. Our numbers are definitely going up. I think we went up about 150 well, I think it was 140. The last time I looked, we were at 178 for Lake County. And usually over a holiday weekend, there's no updates, but just locally, there's a lot of people getting sick. Unfortunately, some of the gatherings we had maybe have caused a few extra people to get the virus. Hopefully most of them are vaccinated, which if they are vaccinated, definitely decreases the chance of hospitalization or serious complications. There obviously are always breakthrough cases, but definitely be diligent out there. Omicron seems to be a different beast. It's not as severe. So definitely, if you're feeling ill, try to isolate. Definitely don't go around immune compromised people. The symptoms are definitely a lot less. So hopefully, we're actually hoping that people get Omicron versus Delta. I'm not wishing COVID on anybody, but don't get me wrong. It's just that the Omicron variant is a lot less severe than Delta. So, do what you need to out there. I think the flu is going around as well. So that can definitely be confusing. So there aren't a lot of rapid tests to be purchased in the area right now. Trust me, I checked over the weekend. I believe Tribal Health did have rapid ones at the Ronan Clinic if you called there. But I assume because of the big uptick of people with symptoms and the contacts that people had, I think those probably were gone last week. So there are the testing facilities at St. Joe's and St. Luke's. Those are open. Those are drive-through, open during the day hours. I believe there's an emergency one at Grant Creek in Missoula. And you can always go to just your local provider to get tested. And just, be smart out there. I know it's real easy to let our guards down. We're all tired of it. We all want to be through it, but it's still here, still a global pandemic. Definitely, hopefully we're getting through it, but we said that about this time last year. And here we are a year later. So don't want to go through another year of this. So let's rally together and not. So thank you.
And thanks for that information. Is Tribal Health hosting any more vaccination clinics here?
Not that not one like we had here. They're doing their regular ones, I believe, at Quatucknuck and I think Quatucknuck on Wednesdays, and then there's another one that I'll look up and double check, and I'll post that here in a second. But that's something else that we definitely could do, a few more of those. That seemed to do well with people coming from work and then the school-age kids, and so maybe having one in another community might be beneficial. So I could talk to Patricia Hibler about seeing if that's something we could do in the next few weeks for sure.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. Not only that, if we can also look at potentially doing a mobile vaccination where we can go to all the home sites. I know there are some people that don't have transportation and are unable to get around, but currently right now, any tribal member could just go right into any of their local tribal health and get a vaccination without an appointment. Is that correct? All right, thanks, Martin.
Good reminder, and that people just need to call tribal clinics and get in there, especially their youth. So this current variant is really spreading fast through the children in the school systems. And so better safe than sorry. So I would encourage all people to get in, and if they know somebody that's above the age of 3, they should haven't been vaccinated, they should get that vaccination as soon as possible. That would help with the spread. Carol?
Just a clarification, what Len said, I don't know if you can just go in. I think there's certain times, because if they open a bottle, they need to have enough clients coming in. So Martin's checking to see, I mean, you said that and I didn't want it to get out there that it's open and you can just, but Tom's right, just call and see if they're ready to receive you.
Yes, please call ahead of time for maximize it for the public. Please call ahead and set that appointment. Really appreciate that. It means a lot for everybody. So many people have, other health issues that aren't related to COVID. And when we fill up the health facilities with COVID illnesses, it takes away from the other illnesses and operations and other medical items that other people have going on. So really hope that people do their due diligence and do everything they can to prevent the spread. Thank you. Just wanted to remind everybody, one other thing was on Wednesday, we have a meeting with Ralph at noon at 9 Pipes. So we do have that coming up. So to go to the boards and committees. Rick provided us with a spreadsheet of the different boards. And I don't know if everybody has that or not. Hopefully you do. Some of you responded. I know Kelly responded, Jennifer responded. Carol responded to a couple items, a couple of boards. Jimmy mentioned a few things I can't quite remember. Being talked about at least one board where he wanted to stay on the ITBC, maybe step down from the IBMP and allow me to sit on that committee or board. Some of these are sensitive, especially the ones that are dealing with some of the funding that's coming through the stimulus package. So some of these have some timing to them. With that, I'll start at the very top of the spreadsheet I have. And I believe Carol is the principal for the 2 on the top. Cameron? Let's do archives for y'all. So Amerind, Amarind, is that the way you pronounce it? Okay. And that's an acronym for,
Just wanted to let you know that there are bylaws and everything that's provided to the tribes, and we are a initial, not owner, but founder of Ameren. Us and two other tribes, Red Lake and Santa Ana and CSKT are the initial founders of Ameren. And so we have a seat at the table, and I serve on the cell commission as a regulator. And it's very technical at times. And then the Ameren is just the insurance company and the workman's comp that the tribes use as a part of Ameren. And I serve on both of those. And I would like to continue if I could. And I also receive a small stipend, and what I do is by council action, provide the stipend to the Boys and Girls Club. And each time there is a stipend provided.
Carol, is there any staff that has been working with it besides you?
What do you mean staff? I know Jody Perez is actually serves as the UNIHA, which don't ask me what that acronym stands for, but it's a regional unit of Ameren. She serves as an alternate to the Ameren board. I'm on the cell commission. I'm a regulator, but she's on the actual board of Ameren.
Yeah, I just wanted to fill out the table as best we could for any of the professional staff that might be.
Yeah, and no, there was an alternate, and that was Charmel, and it could be another council person if they would, Ellie, I know you've dealt with housing before and you know about the insurance, but whoever wants to be alternate, certainly welcome that in case I can't make it.
Ellie?
I would be interested in serving as the alternate. I'm also interested in the Housing Authority one too, so maybe that would be a good fit.
Any other questions on Ameren? Is there consensus to proceed with those delegates? Seeing no objection, we'll move on to the Northwest, ATNI, affiliated tribes of the Northwest Indians. I think Jennifer mentioned that she would love to be on this.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Anita?
I wondered if those positions weren't the chairman and the vice chair, is why it was Shelley and myself.
I think that is the way the bylaws read, but then I think if you can't make it, I think certainly Jennifer would be more than welcome to represent the tribe, but I don't know if you have to do that each time by resolution to make sure we know who our delegate is. So we might want to just look at the bylaws and make sure.
Check into the bylaws of ATNI. And certainly if that's the required representation, certainly would do it. And then in my absence, Len or Jennifer. The border crossing, Len's the current delegate.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, yes, I've been involved in the border crossing. I would like to continue to stay on this issue because in many cases I'm able to communicate with the other Kootenai tribes. So if the council is all right, if I could just continue to stay on that.
Is there consensus for that? I would assume that makes perfect sense. Is there an alternate that would like to assist Len in this? Carol? Carol be the alternate. Okay, Columbia River Treaty. Len Tooteeth is our delegate with Bing as the alternate. Is there any reason to change that?
Well, you're well versed in this area, aren't you? Too?
Depends on who you talk to.
Oh,
No, I would, Rich as far as staff, Rich was more involved than I was.
And you know as well as I do, there are a lot of legal ramifications with the Columbia River Treaty that the tribes really need to stay apprised of at the time. And I would like to suggest and ask my colleague Mike Dolson if he would be interested in sitting on that board. And I would step back on that if he was interested.
I would do that.
Okay, thank you. So we could replace me with Mike Dolson.
Okay, is there consensus for that? The alternate, Bing, do you still wish to be the alternate? Okay, is there consensus for Bing to be the alternate? Okay. The Clark Fork Task Force, I don't see any delegate. So Mary Price as a staff person is represents the tribes on the Clark Fork Task Force. Is that acceptable by everybody? Okay, consensus to continue with staff representation. Housing Authority, Carol is a delegate and alternate was Fred.
Mr. Chair, or did you want it, Ellie?
I'm interested in it, Carol, whether it's as the delegate or the alternate. I'm just interested in staying with Housing Authority.
Okay, you can have it. But I wanna ask the council consider, there is board pay that goes along with this, and I would like to see the pay allowed the council person to receive that pay along with all the other board members. I mean, it's not an easy board. And sometimes, you know, the pay, I think it should be allowed. And I also, Mr. Chair, and the council will allow me, I also think that people who are asked to do professional speaking and, you know, and they get stipends and things like that, I think we should allow those individuals to keep those. Right now, they're turned in, I believe, to the tribe. But I think professionals who have educations and have, you know, have all of the, what do you call it, the cost of paying for schooling and all that, you know, they should be able to accept that. I mean, there was a time back in the day when, yeah, I could see why the tribes wanted it. But nowadays, I think people should be able to receive what they work for. And I'm willing to give it to Ellie, but I would like to have council really consider receiving the board pay that any other board member receives as council members. I don't know if there's any other board on here that gets paid or gets a stipend, but I would like to see that, you know, give us that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Two Eagle is a paid board, and I don't know if, and I think the education board should be a paid board, but those, I think I would ask council to consider that.
Len?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. I'd like to respond to that. I Carol's absolutely right, especially when we're dealing with housing issues. That's probably one of the toughest boards that council people participate in, because of the issues associated with housing that we deal with on a daily basis. And a lot of the members are counting on you on a lot of issues. And in regards to some of the other duties that you're called upon as a board member, such as speaking engagements. Those are pretty tough, as you all know, to get up and address. And so I think I would have to agree with Carol in regards to the compensation on that. If there is, I think that the time and effort and things that go into sitting on that specific board, I would have to agree. So.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Carol. Ellie?
Thank you, Carol, for giving me the opportunity. I've missed that board since I was able to serve on it prior to being on council. So really enjoyed that work, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yep, you're coming upon a real tough issue. They're talking about raising the rates. And that is going to be a real tough issue, but they're going to come and address the council prior to moving on anything. So I guess we will let them know what we'd like to see come out of that, but that is going to be a big issue. So, and I will be the alternate, Mr. Chair, if that's okay. And I would also be happy to shepherd the language. I think there would be a change to ordinance 69C. I would work, if you would like, work with personnel and bring back something, if council would like to entertain that.
There's, is everybody okay with Ellie as the delegate and Carol as the alternate? Is that full consensus? Okay, definitely, Carol. What we'll do is we have a list. Staff's already working on PDs for us, working on longevity pay stuff, and we'll put that one. I'll talk to Ricky about it and see if he needs assistance with that. But thank you for offering it. It would be a personnel ordinance modification or revision.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate council for at least considering that, because I think it's, it's something that our professionals earned by their education and they deserve it. I mean, I got a stipend from the state for $25 and I'd have to, whatever. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. Indian Agricultural Council, Nita, Matt, and Mike Dolson. I'm assuming there's no change here.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to request staying on. I just got put on as vice president here. I've been attending them virtually for the last 2 years, so hasn't took any time away, but it's very important to the agricultural producers for the state of Montana and the US. So
Thank you, Anita. I'm sure you're a great representative of that. Mike, are you okay with being an alternate?
Yeah, I very much agreeable to stay on as alternate.
Is that consensus with council to keep our current delegates? Okay. Intertribal Monitoring Association. I'm not even sure what that is.
I looked it up online because I didn't know what it was either. And I just saw that no one was signed up for it. So I thought I would do that if we needed someone. It's the organization that oversees the IIM money. That's what they do. Yeah.
Okay, so Jennifer has put her name forward to be our delegate on this. Jimmy? Okay.
I was on it before.
I thought we
Years ago, so I'd like to be an alternate.
Is it the consensus for council to have Jennifer as the first delegate and Jimmy as the alternate? Okay.
Jim, was that, excuse me, Mr. Chair, just a quick question. Is that what we went to Yakima for that time, Jim? Oh, okay, all right.
Okay, well, we made it a third of the way almost, so we'll break from it now, go back into the agenda item that we have with NRD. Okay, we have non-competitive negotiation process with Tabitha Espinoza and Seth Makepeace.
Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay. Good morning, Councilman McDonald and council members, and welcome to the newly elected members. My name is Tabitha Espinoza, and I'm here on behalf of the Division of Engineering and Water Resources. We're requesting pursuit of a non-competitive negotiation contract with GM Environmental Consulting. As you know, right now we have several compact implementation projects going, and we'll continue to add more projects as the years progress. The projects are moving fast and they're on pretty aggressive timetables. So we want to pursue a non-competitive contract with a firm to support some work for those projects. The work that we're needing right now is the environmental and cultural resources permitting, work supporting the NEPA process and other environmental services like wetland and riparian delineation, some restoration design elements, and a few other things. We know that GM has the technical ability to achieve all of these elements of the work because we've worked with them for a very long time. The Natural Resources Department and also Tribal Legal has worked with them for 20 plus years. So we know their work history and they're good at this stuff. So internally, we envision a time when we'll be able to have the staff and the skills and the capacity to complete a lot of this work in-house, and we want to reach toward that goal. But right now, we need a little external support to achieve these elements of the work, to keep projects on their timelines. So we envision a contract where they would not only complete the technical elements, but they would also explicitly support the tribal capacity building. So they would be responsible for all the NEPA documents, all the permitting, all the wetland delineations, all those elements that I mentioned, but they would keep our staff intimately involved in the process of creating that work. So we would be co-authoring documents with them, doing research with them, being in the field with them, kind of learning alongside of the work that they complete. And I think at the end of the contract, we would be able to do all that work in-house, but we just need to get there, build up our capacity. And then at the end of the contract, additionally, anything that's created during the contract period would be owned by CSKT. So any of the documents, whether it's draft or final, as well as any templates we create, would be owned by us. So those would be really valuable tools going into the future of numerous projects. It will just help streamline our process. So I've kind of talked about how we envision the contract looking, reasons that we'd like to pursue non-competitive negotiations with GM specifically. I mentioned before, but they have a long and proven track record with us. They've worked with fisheries, with the environmental division, with Division of Engineering and Water Resources, with legal. They've done all this work in the past, this type of work, and we've seen their products. They're really good at this. They're also local, and so they're down in the Bitterroot. They're highly cost effective and they're timely. So those are major benefits to working with them. They also, the other element of the contract, the second element, kind of the capacity building support, they have the skills to do that element too. They're not just the technical end. They have worked really closely with our staff in the past, and they have interest in mentoring us and helping us bring some of this work in-house in the long run. So I think those are all kind of our main reasons of wanting to pursue them specifically, rather than opening it up to the world to see who competes for it. So that's kind of all I wanted to say, and I guess I'll take any questions you have.
When?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, and thank you, Tabitha. So you mentioned that this firm is a local company here. Do you know if they employ tribal members?
I do not know. They're actually out of Hamilton. So and I don't know if they have tribal members on their staff.
Okay.
Councilman Two Teeth, this is Seth Makepeace. They do not have tribal members on their staff. They're a woman minority owned business. They worked with us on the Jocko River restoration, the damage claim. And what we're hoping to accomplish is that they will assist us to launch rehabilitation and betterment permitting activities, but mentor our tribal staff to grow the internal capacity to do the work and to get through some of this initial bottlenecking that we have. So it will be very explicit that they will support the tribal member staff and the tribal staff that exist and that will come on board.
Any other question? That one, Tabitha and Seth, what kind of a duration are you talking about? What is the term you're looking at for this contract?
Go ahead, Tabby. Yeah.
We had talked about 5 years, but with kind of a tapering work schedule on their end. So we foresee, heavy workload on their end for the first 2-3 years, and then more of a mentoring element for the last couple of years. But 5 years would give us a big enough window that they could continue to kind of, as projects come on board, continue to support our work if we needed them.
Council members, we would seek what we term a master agreement with the firm, and then we would only issue work based on tasks, individual tasks. And at this time, there are many things that slow us down on rehabilitation and betterment, but right now what we term a critical path issue or something in the road for us is environmental permitting. And until we can manage that process effectively, we really can't create the construction workforce stream. We're frankly delayed on projects because we're trying to get through the array of environmental permitting issues. It typically takes up to a year to get through environmental permitting. So with GM Environmental, we're thinking of a multi-year master services agreement. We would initiate projects one by one with them. And we have a really high level of confidence that they will work with tribal staff because they've been helping Chauncey Means in the environmental division over the years and kind of training. And they've actually worked with Tabitha on wetland delineations in her former position.
Any other questions from council? I'm really familiar with this firm. They are excellent. They provided excellent service to the tribes in the past. Full confidence in their ability to assist us. And so it's kind of a as needed contract for a duration of maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
Any other questions for council?
Just what we're seeking from the council is authority to enter into non-competitive negotiations with GM Environmental Corporation Company to support environmental services work for the Division of Engineering and Water Resources.
Anita?
Yeah, just real quickly, do we have other contracts that we've gone a 5-year period with? I mean, I've seen them for 2 and 3 years, but 5 years seems like quite a lengthy time, but.
We use other time periods. We thought 5 years because we're about to try and understand if we can complete a programmatic biological assessment to comply with the Endangered Species Act. And that probably will take a couple of years of effort on their part, working with our internal NRD staff also extensively, but we certainly could think about 3 years. We just have such confidence in this firm that we were comfortable with 5 years, knowing that we could issue tasks or not issue tasks. Yeah.
Yeah, Anita, there are a few examples where we've done that. I do recall we did that with Rockwell on a longer term, just because of the longevity of the information that he needed to help us produce. What I like about this is that it's on call, so it's as needed. That's certainly what behoove us as far as a longer term contract. Any other discussions? Mike?
I'd make that motion, Mr. Chairman, for the pursuit of a non-competitive negotiation contract with Jim Environmental Consult to assist the Division of Engineering and Water Resources.
Motion by Mike. Is there a second? Second by Ellie. All those in favor? Unanimous. Martin out of the room.
Just one other question, Mr.
Go
Chair.
ahead, Anita.
I didn't see a total of the contract.
We would not identify a total amount for the contract award, but we would negotiate each task independently. And so we are currently, just for perspective, we are currently with the rehabilitation and betterment projects spending between $80,000 and $100,000 just to secure environmental permits. So in this regard, what we would do is develop a master agreement with them. The initial task we anticipate them accomplishing is environmental permitting for the Safety of Dams project at Kicking Horse Reservoir. We would negotiate a cost in detail for that. And that's how we had hoped to approach it, rather than give them a contract ceiling amount. Negotiated on individual project basis with them. And this in part stems from our confidence working with them and our knowledge that their costs are typically 40 to 50% less than the engineering community around us.
Thank you, Seth. We voted on that and we're done. Thank you, Anita. Carol?
Yeah, we have a tribal member outside the door, and I think they're gonna probably take care of the issue. But you know, when a person's in recovery and they want to try to get these meetings set up, and it seems to be taking a long time, and I don't want to sound impatient, but it's just like getting into treatment. You know, you need to have that stuff set up so they can continue on their sobriety path and their recovery. And we're going on, I don't know how many weeks for this individual trying to use the Polson Center. We have an individual who wants to use the Arlie Center. And I don't know if it's just taking a long time to get these centers. And I was going to give him an opportunity to address the council. But I don't know, Martin, is it taken care of?
Yeah, we should be able to get them in the center by the end of the month. They're finishing their COVID policies by, I think she said by the end of this week, and she's going to try to get them to come in or have them have a meeting by the last week of the month. He said he would come back in, maybe just kind of once we get everything established, to kind of let people know when the meetings are going to be. So it sounds like we're just making sure we're flying COVID protocols and then having staff available to open the buildings.
It must be who has the centers, because like the Dixon Center is open and available for the meetings, but since there's elders in the elder center in Polson, that's why they have to do those protocols, because not only do the elders use it, but people like this with other meetings. So thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Carol.
Excuse my interruption. Tabitha and I are done, correct? We weren't sure there.
You are.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
You too.
Okay, next on the agenda is Miranda Berlin. Go ahead, Miranda.
She said she was in the waiting area, so hold on and let me see.
She's just rejoining. I don't know why she got kicked for a second. Michelle,
Oh.
coming back on.
Thank you.
Miranda, you can go ahead and start. Miranda? I don't know if you have your mic on or off. Miranda's coming in or not, but
Mr. Chair, I just texted her and told her that we can't hear or see her, and so I'm sure she'll remedy that momentarily.
okay, thank you.
She's stating that the host is not allowing her to have her mic or her video on.
Working on it right now. We can't. What?
Made her a co-host, so she should be able to unmute.
So should we have her log off and try logging back in? Okay.
Yeah, let's try that.
Sorry for the delay, everyone. How are you guys today? How's council going? There she is.
Good morning, Miranda.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I have no clue what was going on there. So good morning, council, new council. Happy New Year. So am I ready to get started? Are you guys ready for me?
We are.
Okay, perfect. my request starts on page 4 with a request to come to you guys to do an approval of our upcoming 2022, 2023 higher education student policy handbook. What you'll notice is if we go down, so it starts on page 4, and kind of throughout the application or the policy handbook, you guys will see there were some dates highlighted. So every year we have to change the deadline date for the application, which we moved to Monday, May 2nd. So you'll kind of see that throughout the application, throughout the policy. I apologize. And then you'll see another date of Friday, August 5th, which will be for all of the remaining documents that students need to turn in for their file completion for their funding. Some of the big things you guys will notice is on page 8. I don't know if we can get to that page. So towards the bottom of the page, you guys will see this was a section I added. This is another document requirement. I don't know why it was never in the policy handbook before, but for some reason this year I thought, yeah, it absolutely needs to be added. Students know about it through the application itself, but it wasn't in the policy handbook. So this is the student agreement form. That is something I send out to students in July, kind of talking about the deadline, August 5th, they need to get it turned in and read through. So that was added. And then we will go to page 9. And on page 9 is towards the bottom of page 9 and the top of page 10. When I went to the Tribal Ed Committee, this was one of the things I wanted to pursue this year, was raising the higher education funding level from 5,000 to 6,000, but that was going to be for specific degree fields. So you will see if we scroll to the top of page 10, I apologize, Jen, if you're the one running through this. These are the specific degree fields. When I talked to personnel, these were some of the ones that we knew were being advertised, or certain tribal departments were re-advertising. Obviously, we know with the water rights coming in, we talked about the civil and electrical engineering when I talked to Renee. Another thing that we talk a lot about, I think, is the department as a whole in education, are our K-12 teachers. Obviously, I need to reword how I typed K-12 teachers and pharmacists on there, but we know in our public schools we do need teachers, so that's something we felt was important. Hydrology was another part of the water rights, and we talked about the constant re-advertisement for pharmacists and also social workers. So that was something TEC agreed that would be good for the policy. So if we can go back to page 9, sorry, towards the bottom is, you'll see that we're going to raise that to 6,000, and I want this specifically for upper level undergraduate students, like junior or senior level, and then our graduate level students. The reason I want that is I know students are going to be more committed in that upper, junior, senior level or graduate level to finish their degrees. And then we'll offer, the 6,000 for them. The one thing you guys will notice right after the graduate funding and credits, and Mike, I do apologize, I did not bring this up to you guys at TEC because I thought about it later, is I will need to ask council that we raise that graduate funding level. So if I'm looking at, 10 students, it's going to be the 135,000, 15 students, 140. And I base that off of our numbers from last year. So last year, or this current year, we currently have 10 graduate level students that fit in those 5 degree fields. So that's something we would also be changing. So raising that from the 125 up to, we'll say up to 140,000, giving us that leeway of 15 graduate level students. And if there's any questions, please interrupt me. I am speeding through this. And then on page 10, kind of what I was mentioning is I do need to change the wording when I put K-12 teachers and pharmacists. It needs to say pharmacy and education, K-12 educators. So that would be the changes that I'm making to this year's policy. And again, I want to try to get everything out to students at the latest by the start of next week. So I don't know if there's any questions, any comments.
Questions by council. Carol?
Yeah, Miranda, where basically does the funding come from? Is it just pure tribal dollars?
Yeah, it's through the compact funding. And it's 749,000 is what is offered to higher education.
Okay, and if you had more, let me see, let me reword that. Is there enough money to fund all students that choose to go to school?
Currently, yes. And I will say since COVID hit, the number of applicants has dropped. You know, this year I have 200 applicants and oh gosh, I should have pulled these numbers. I apologize. I'm funding probably about 3/4 of that. And part of that is I will not fund a student if they do not complete their paperwork. That is one of the things I stick by. So again, normally, Carol, we have around, it's average maybe anywhere from 250 to 280 students. So we've dropped drastically. And part of that is students, you know, either are working or they just don't want to be in classes. So right now, yes, I have available funding and I have returned higher ed funding over. I think we've returned funding every year. And not that I want you guys to take it because I want to spend it, but yeah, there is available funding, Carol.
Well, the reason why I mention it, because I always thought, you know, when we get a dividend from a corporation that, you know, has social issues attached to it, I always think that we should at least provide some of that money that we get in a dividend earmarked towards something like education, something like chemical dependency or whatever the case may be, pharmacy, things like that. But it sounds like we have enough money to handle the students right now. So I don't know, are you thinking about upping the stipend for the year, or are you just gonna have carryover, or how are you gonna deal with that?
Well, normally if there's carryover, I have to return it, but my hope is doing this, I won't be in such, you know, such a leftover funding amount. That's why I thought if we're looking at priority fields, which I had actually talked to Vern Claremont when he was still here, that we did talk about raising the total funding amount for everybody to 6,000. I do worry about that just because I still do have students that get funding for one term and then they don't return. So I want to, if that was the case, Carol, if we raise it, then absolutely I would be out of funding. You know, and the hope is just to get more students to apply. I stay in pretty good contact with them about needed paperwork, what's not turned in. I want to fund students and I want to fund them all. If there was a possibility I could fund every student, you know, a higher amount, I would love to do it. But this was just kind of my thinking, let's test this out. Let's see how this goes. I mean, obviously, if I don't have enough funding for some crazy reason this year, I'd be back talking to you guys.
Jennifer?
Thank you, Miranda. I know you do a lot of good work there and you're very diligent and you help a lot of people and you really provide excellent customer service too. So I appreciate everything that you do. I did have a couple questions. So one of my questions is, what is the total number of tribal member students you serve for undergrad and for graduate school across all disciplines? And about how many graduates do we have a year for undergrad and grad? So that's one question. How many for undergrad and grad do we have graduating approximately? Actually, I have a number of questions, but I guess I'll start there. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jen. So on average, I'm going to say about 30 graduates that, you know, are either an undergraduate degree or graduate level. It's probably only, I'm going to say maybe an average, I'm going to say maybe 6 graduate level students and the rest would be undergrad. As far as the funding level, again, this year, there's 200 students. And again, I apologize, I should have pulled these numbers. And again, not everybody's being funded because not everybody's got a complete app, but what we allow for graduate level students to be funded is 25 students. This year, I think I have 25 students. There's, again, a few of them that don't have complete files. Some are choosing not to go this year, so I'll make little notes in my database, but I am funding a good amount of graduate level students currently this year. And I think I missed one of your questions.
Thank you. The only thing I would like to say is graduate school is really expensive, and I would like to see like everyone pursuing a master's degree to get that extra $1,000 because they don't get Pell Grants or anything like that. And graduate school is typically more expensive than an undergraduate degree. And I really like your idea of giving juniors and seniors an extra $1,000 because they are more likely to graduate once you make it that far. So I think that's a great idea, Miranda.
Thank you.
Good question. Question, Miranda. On the vocational trades training, how many applicants do you get a year for that?
You know, it's not many. If we look at accredited schools, so the one thing, Chairman, is with higher ed, I can only fund accredited schools. So if we look at SKC and students that are doing the highway construction, I can fund them for that trade. And I know they've got a number of them over there that they can get that year certificate. So I'm going to say it's maybe about 10 students, but on the other end of that, Chairman, we do have the tribal license plate scholarship, which right now we're just trying to finish spending that out. So that is for unaccredited schools. And I'm not getting many applicants, which is crazy to me. Like I'm pushing this a lot. We have some beauty schools, cosmetology schools, the lineman school, like MVP has students or people that are interested in that type of degree. They'll do the Northwest Lineman School that I've assisted with, and that is a smaller amount. So that's only 1,000. But on average, I'm going to say it's maybe 5 students. It's not very many that do the trade programs. The other thing I have in place is I've worked with housing, and we have the Sean Maestas Memorial Scholarship. And that is also for some specific trade programs and some accredited or degrees through the colleges. So, but we don't have many, Chairman, so I would like to see more. And when I visit with high school seniors, that is one of the things we do talk a lot about.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. And Miranda, thank you for the information this morning. I really appreciate, I always appreciate the information you provide to us. Miranda, some time ago, the legal department provided a list of jobs that we're going to be needing for the water compact implementation. And I was just kind of curious to know if you have that list and if you've been sharing that with all of the student applicants in the education department to let them know that these are jobs that are going to be needed and something that will require education.
I believe I've seen that list, but I don't currently have it. So I can get a hold of someone from legal and have them send that to me, where I can get it up on our tribal ed webpage and also be talking to students about that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Miranda.
Yes.
Any other questions for Miranda? Ellie?
No question, but I would make a motion to approve the 2022-23 Higher Education Scholarship Student Policy Handbook.
Motion to approve by Ellen. Is there a, Ellie, was there a second? Second by Anita? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Miranda. Good job.
Thank you, council. We'll see you guys later.
Okay, next up is Michelle.
I actually requested to have the next item rescheduled due to COVID-related issues with the visitor.
Okay, that sounds good. Very appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take a brief recess right now, and then we'll come back. Thank you. Everybody's back. We'll come back into session and we'll go back to our board and committee appointments. So we have some time to do that right now. I think we left off at Intertribal Monitoring Association, which was new to me, and thank you for letting me know what it is. So Intertribal Buffalo Council, I believe that Bing wants to stay on this committee. And Len, I'm not sure if you would want to be the alternate.
Yes. I like to.
So if there's consensus by council to keep those two delegates as is, everybody's okay with that, we'll move on to the next one. Intertribal Timber Council. We had Fred, Matt, and Bing with Carol as an alternate and Lynn as an alternate. So we need to do our main delegate. Okay, so Bing currently is the main delegate. Okay. Carol said she'd be the main alternate if nobody else is interested. That's if I can proceed with that. No objections. We'll do that. It'll be Bing and Carol. Okay, the Advisory Council on Indian Ed.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ellie.
Mike Dolson and I actually swapped on that, so he's the main delegate currently, and I don't wish to stay as an alternate if anybody else is interested. I believe Jennifer indicated interest.
Mike, are you willing to be the main delegate?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I definitely am.
And Jennifer, you'd be the alternate? Okay. Is there a consensus by council to proceed that way? All right, cool. Rocky Mountain Leaders Council. Len, Two Teeth, and Carol. Are you both still willing to do that?
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, I am currently an officer on the Tribal Leaders Council, so I like to remain on that.
Sorry, I'm also on the subcommittee for the health on the Rocky Mountain Tribal Leaders, so I'd like to stay there too.
Is there consensus to keep our two delegates? See nothing different. We'll just stay with that. Thank you for doing that. Native American Fish and Wildlife Society. Ellie is the main delegate and Bing is the alternate.
Mr. Chair, that board was, I haven't done anything in the whole time I've been on that board. I think with COVID, things were just not happening on their end, but despite that, I am no longer interested in, I think there might be a better fit here if anybody else wants to step up.
Bing, you want to be the main delegate? Okay. Anybody want to be the alternate? Martin? Yeah, Bing is the main delegate for the Native American Fish and Wildlife Society and Martin as the alternate. Is consensus to proceed with that? Okay. National Congress of American Indians. We have a vacancy there and Ellie was the alternate.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, I think this is the board here where it's critical that we have our chairman continue to engage in this board, and I thought Ellie did a great job participating in that also, and if she's still interested, I would still support that.
Okay, so Tom and Ellie, is there consensus to continue with that? National Indian Gaming Association, Bing is the main delegate and Martin is the alternate. Are you two still willing to do that?
Also, I'd like to ask my colleague Jimmy Molitor to be on that. He was also on the gaming board prior, sitting on council also, and I know that he was involved in a lot of the projects that gaming's been on. So if he's interested, I would like to see him also on that board.
Okay. Jimmy as an alternate on that gaming association. I know Jimmy was involved during the 8 years he was previously sat on council, so certainly that would behoove us to have the three of you represent us as we go forward. So consensus? Okay, Highway 93 Project Oversight Group, all council. So there's no change there. Self-governance, Martin Charlo is main delegate, and Carol and Anita as alternates.
So be an alternate, being the person that's on the progress rulemaking committee for that. I'd like to be abreast of what's going on there.
Carol?
I could step back and let Mike take my position underneath Martin.
Okay, so Carol's suggesting that you be the main alternate after Martin. Okay, as consensus of the council to do those changes? Okay. State Tribal Economic Development Committee. We have a vacancy there, and then Len was the alternate.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead, Len.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, these were governor appointed positions. And so, at least for myself, I don't want to speak for Shelley, but I really have not been engaging in this. It seems like every time they've set up a meeting, I always had other obligations, so I'm not really familiar with where they're at. I know when Shelley was on the board, they delegated her as the chairperson for this board. So I just wanted to let the council know about that, but I would rather step back and allow another council person, if they're interested, we could let the state of Montana know that's who we want to sit on the board for this commission. It's a very important commission for the tribes, and I think we really need to have somebody that can really engage and participate. But
Thank you, Len. Anita?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And actually, Shelley did contact me about this and say that she had just gotten appointed as the chair, and that they had like 7 or 8 different priorities that they're working on. They finally got going. She said that the individual didn't have to be on tribal council, that they could still represent the tribe, and asked that the council consider leaving her on this committee. So I'm just sharing the information.
Carol?
And does the bylaws require that it be an elected tribal leader? Do we know that for sure, or are we just saying no?
Go ahead, Anita.
I couldn't really say, Carol, other than she told me you didn't have to be, but that was just her telling me that. So you might have to look, but she was just elected, so.
I guess, my familiarity with the state appointed committees, they have their staff person in the governor's office. And usually it's pretty wide open as far as it's a state appointee. And, they may have general criteria, but I don't know for this particular one.
I guess, Mr. Chair, if I might, I guess the other question is, does the council wish to have former tribal leaders continue on, and are we going to continue to pay and that kind of thing? Because we've never done that before. When you're done, you're done. And so I'm fine with if that's the way the governor has done it, but if not, I think we need to make sure that we're following the bylaws, and if we need to replace that person, that's fine.
Ellie?
I'm thinking this appointment may be similar to the MMIP task force that I was appointed to prior to me being a council person, and that was also appointed but approved by council. So if it's kind of run the same way, it might be okay. But we may want to just take a look before we decide.
Jennifer?
Yeah, I think it would be better suited if it was you, Tom, someone who's currently on tribal council, because then I think it would be easier for the rest of us to stay up to date on what's going on with tribal and state economic development, because I think it's really important, rather than we're relying on a third party, Shelley, to tell us what's going on. And that way, if a current council member is on it, I think that would be the most appropriate.
What I can say in regard to this, I love to make sure that we have, our own staff that participate, or our elected officials. I think that has been pretty much the protocol, unless it's in the organic nature of the startup of the committee or the board or the group. So I would concur that I would prefer to have it as an employee or an elected official.
In this, when I noticed that Shelley wanted to stay on, but I feel that it brings a lot of money in for individuals who are running businesses. And so I think, to have somebody, like you said, Jennifer, who was elected. But let's just check. I'm not trying to be critical of anybody, because I know Shelley does do a good job when she has served on there. But, I think if you want to be appointed, all you'd have to do is send your name to the governor and say, Ms. Fyant is no longer elected leader, and we'd like to have you select, or we're nominating this individual.
In regard to my board position, I would just assume step down and ask one of my colleagues here if they were interested, and if they were interested, we can send that communication to the state of Montana, letting them know that these would be our new appointee.
Okay, so yeah, Jennifer.
I would like to be considered as an alternate, but not the main person on this, but I would just like to know what's going on with tribal and state economic development.
If we have a potential change as Carol as the main delegate and Jennifer as the alternate. And in order to do that, we have to send notification to the governor's office on their board appointments.
And Mr. Chair, I'd like to have that turned around where Jennifer, you can handle it. Jennifer can be the main and I'll be the alternate. You gotta be the main on something.
There's consensus to do that. We can proceed that way.
Yeah, Tom, you don't want to be the part of that?
I'm part of everything.
You are, but yeah, I just wanted to be at least an alternate on that. It's just an interest of mine, our economic development, so.
Well, you would be the main delegate. And
Mr. Chairman, Jennifer, I think you'd be the ideal for this, because as an entrepreneur, that's pretty much what they deal with is Indian businesses on the reservation. So I would really highly recommend you if we're interested. So.
Okay, so my business is closed because of the pandemic, but I would still do that, yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to the Tribal Education Committee. We have Mike Dolson as the delegate and Ellie as the alternate. Mike, are you still more interested in that delegate position?
I am still interested.
And Ellie, maybe?
No,
No.
I prefer not to be honest.
Okay, is there another person with Jennifer? Okay. The council's consensus to have Mike and Jennifer. Okay. Thank you.
Mr.
I think-
Chairman?
Yes,
Sorry, what board was that?
that was the Tribal Education Committee.
Thank you.
SNK Gaming LLC Committee, Bing Matt is the delegate, and we still have Carol listed as an alternate. Are you two okay with that?
I'm okay, and then Jimmy probably is interested.
Okay, we'll have Bing as the delegate, Jimmy as the main alternate, and then Carol as the third alternate. Is a consensus with council? Okay. National Indian Education Association, Mike is the delegate and Ellie is the alternate.
I think Jen was interested in this as well, right? I would be glad to be the alternate.
I would also be willing to be the alternate too. That's what I was thinking at a point.
And I'm glad to step away, so I'm gonna let you two do main and alternate.
Okay, so with that, Mike, you would be the delegate and Jennifer would be the alternate. Is that okay? Consensus from council? Next, we have roundtable on the Crown of the Continent. Martin is the delegate and don't have an alternate. Martin, are you still want to be on Crown of the Continent? You bet. Okay. Any alternates? Anita?
I would be interested.
That'd be great. Anita, I know a lot of the topics are talking about you could provide excellent input to. I'm familiar with what they do. So, okay, so that would be Martin as the main delegate and Anita as the alternate for the roundtable, the Crown of the Continent. Yes, Martin.
I'd be willing to have Anita be the main and I can be the alternate, just to switch it up. She was good with that.
Anita, are you okay with that? Okay, we'll switch that around. Anita will be the main delegate. Martin will be the alternate. Next, we have Tweedle River School. Mike?
Yeah, I'm actually the main on this one, and I'd be happy to stay there.
Anybody want to be an alternate? Jennifer? Okay. Consensus by council. Have Mike as the main delegate, Jennifer as an alternate to Tweedle River School. Consensus? Okay. Yes, question. Go ahead, Carol.
I don't know if this is a conflict or not, but it seemed to have come up in the past where if you have children in the system, that should not be a conflict because that's just you wanting to be a part of your children's education.
Normally, school boards, the school board all have children in the school system.
Okay. I'm good. I'm not saying I don't know if you guys have kids there or not. I have a granddaughter there.
Yeah, I do. I have a son there.
Yeah, I think that the due diligence would be if you're participating, Jennifer, in something that had to do with your own son, particularly in the school, some action, you'd have to step aside from that. So knowing that, I'm sure you'll be very professional. The IBMP, that's the Interagency Bison Management Plan Partners Group for Yellowstone. Bing is the main delegate, Len is the alternate. That Bing?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would sooner give that position to you than a main delegate. And you had a lot to do with that, and I could still be the alternate for you.
Yeah, I'd be fine being the main delegate to that IBMP. Len, do you want to be an alternate?
I would like to just remain a second alternate. Yeah, being.
Okay, so it'd be myself as the main delegate, thing is second, and Len is the third. Consensus with council for the IBMP. Okay, Native Farm Bill Coalition, Anita, and then is the main delegate, and all of council is the alternate. Are we changing anything there? Anita, you're okay? Okay, good. Council consensus to keep it that way? Okay. Native American Advisory Board for WSU, Washington State University, I'm assuming. And Michelle Mitchell has been the staff person.
I've actually been sitting on that advisory committee, and I'd be glad to continue. They have their satellite in Spokane, actually.
So we would move to have Mike as the principal delegate. Is there any other folks that want to participate as an alternate? Martin? Okay, Mike is the main delegate for WSU Native American Advisory Board, and Martin as a delegate. Okay, MMIP Task Force, Ellie. Now, I know, Ellie, you're not going to step down from this one.
I
And
am interested. I serve as a presiding officer on that task force and would like to stay.
and Martin, are you interested to be the alternate?
If someone else wants it, it's more than they can have it, but I'd be willing if no one else was.
Anybody else have an interest for MMIP Task Force? Okay, we'll stay with the two representatives we have already. So Equal Pay for Equal Pay Task Force, Carol is the delegate, and I'm not sure what that one is.
It's a governor's appointment, and I don't even know if it exists right now. It's equal work for equal pay. It's not equal pay. And so I don't even know if that's still in existence. So I would say not.
Okay, we'll just keep it as is for now. The Montana Invasive Species Council, I know Martin's on that. Martin, you still want to be? Absolutely. Does anybody want to be a delegate for that one? I would be a delegate for that one if nobody else would want to be. As Martin stays on as the principal delegate, and I would be his alternate. Upper Columbia Conservation Commission. It's somewhat connected to the Invasive Species Council, specifically dealing with mussels, aquatic invasive species. Martin's been doing his due diligence there. He wants to keep it. I would offer myself as an alternate to that too, if it's a consensus with council. Gaming Advisory Board, Carol is our delegate.
That was excuse me, Mr. Chair, that was a Attorney General Tim Fox appointment, and I resigned from that position due to the fact that the last meeting we had was not very welcoming, and it was a new the Republicans came into office, and it was at a country club, and it kind of felt different. So I just stepped back from it. And I don't know if they have appointed somebody else or not, but I'm sure they have.
You know what, I'll check on that with the Governor's Office of Appointments and find out the status of this board for us. Len?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, that's a really important board that we also need to stay engaged in. And if there is an opportunity, I would like to sit on that board.
Okay. Len is interested in that. I can call the Governor's Office and find out the status of the Gaming Advisory Board. That's a consensus of council to replace Carol with Len.
I would call the Attorney General's office. I don't think the governor's office has anything to do with it. Did I say that different?
Okay. Um, yeah, I'll check on that, but I believe all boards and appointments go through the governor's office, but I'm not sure of that.
Not this one. I
Okay.
remember the Attorney General coming in.
Okay, we'll check on that for the Budget Committee, all council, Lands Committee, all council, Enrollment Committee, all council, Legislative Weekly Meetings, all council. Any changes to those?
Mr. Chair, I do have one addition. I don't know that it needs to be on this list or not, but I was also just recently appointed to serve on the 911, Lake County 911 Board. And that's a position that Bob McCray used to have, so I'm representing the CSKT fire.
Just Anita.
One other one is the tribal conservation issues, this TCI. It's another board that the tribes are affiliated with, all of the 8 tribes. Anyway, it deals with NRCS and the what state set are the set-asides for Indian tribes, and we have not been at the table in a while. And we had been talking about it. The NRCS has been kind of guiding the agenda when the tribes are supposed to be guiding that agenda. So we want to get started back into that. And I was in touch with Mark prior to the last chairwoman. And that'll probably be coming back up again. Their meetings, they meet about once every 3 or 4 months. So I would still like to be a part of that. It's been so disorganized. We didn't know who was president and who was vice and secretary. It's been kind of disorganized because we've lost a lot of people. So that needs to be looked at again. So I'd like to be kept on that TCI with probably Mark and AJ as alternates.
Thank you, Anita. So those two, the Lake County 911 Board, Ellie is volunteering to be remain on that. Carol?
Yeah, there's 2 boards I would like to see at least added. Consideration for adding is Boys and Girls Club. I'm about termed out. I've got 2, I think a year and a half, 2 years left in my term. And then they're talking about expanding to other communities. We've got 3 communities now, Polson, Ronan, and Mission. And we're thinking Arlee and Hot Springs. So I think it's important that, if our kids are that important to us and that's their after school program, that's something that's available to them. We need to stay involved. And the other one is the drug court. I've been on that for, I think going on 4 years now. And I would like to stay involved in that. But I'd like to have it on the list because there should be another council person that steps up. And I'd also like to invite the council someday to go to the actual court hearing and observe just for an afternoon. It's just an hour. Court doesn't last any longer than that. But to see what goes on, and I think then we can kick off our court over here and handle our people here eventually.
Thank you, Carol. Ellie?
I'd be interested in doing that, Carol, sometime whenever it's a good time you think to go do that. I'd love to.
Well, I'm taking the whole council with me. So yeah, let's do it, Ellie.
Okay, so we've added the Lake County 911 Board with Ellie as our delegate and consensus to do that, I'm assuming.
Just a FYI on that one, Mr. Chair, it is an appointment that was made by fire control. So in the future, it would still be them, not us making the appointment.
Okay. The tribal conservation issues Anita mentioned, we would have Anita be our representative, a delegate on that as it gets reconstituted or gets back up and rolling with NRCS.
Yes, and I'd like to have AJ and, like I said, Mark and AJ as staff.
Consensus from council to do that. So, the Boys and Girls Club, Carol's been, of course, one of the founding members, and she would remain a delegate. Maybe looking for some alternates to assist with the Boys and Girls Club. Is there anybody that would? Jimmy? Okay. consensus to do that? Okay. And then, of course, the drug test court would be Carol, and Ellie is volunteering to participate as a alternate or co-delegate, I guess. So, Martin.
I would like to be a third delegate, alternate for the drug task force, please.
Okay, we have Martin on that. Consensus by everybody? I think that concludes our boards and committees at this time. Yes, Mike?
I just want to clarify that Washington State University, there's actually two boards now that I recall, and I sit on the Native American Health Sciences Advisory Board, and I think Michelle is the one that sits on just the Native American Advisory Board. So I'm remembering they had two boards.
Okay, we'll get the two titles down and reflect it that way then. Thanks, Mike. Any other comments on boards and committees? With that, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which would be Dan. For legal updates. Oh, Carol?
Mr. Chairman, normally we'll take action to put this in stone.
Yes, I would entertain a motion to approve our board and committee assignments.
Motion.
Motion by Carol, seconded by Martin. All those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you, Carol. Go ahead, Dan.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, council members. So I have 6, possibly 7 updates for the council this morning, Mr. Chairman. All of them involve litigation updates or legal strategy. So at this point, we'd like to request executive session.
Moving to executive session.
Still showing the recording. So.